Hello BookTube. In this book haul, 3 novels and 5 collections of poetry. Starting with Tell It Slant by John Yaw. I've been wanting to pick up something by John Yaw for a number of years now, ever since I first saw one of his collections in the poetry section of the University of Chicago website. Emily Dickinson famously brought her poetic attention to 2 slanted things: light, a certain slant of, and truth. Tell all thee, but tell it. It is part of John Yaw's far-reaching genius to remind us that both light and truth depend on perception, as he turns a racist slur, slanted eyes, into the sign by which we recognize the trustworthy phenomenologist. In this latest collection, Tell It Slant, Yaw, following his inclination, holds the mirror up to vision itself, watchful of his own watching, noting what poetry sees, involved in close observations, which are endlessly productive of lively and original insights, creatively sampling the doxa, and always returning to ekphrasis, scouting the path the painter has left for us to follow. The poet has given us his most tender, open, resonant, and beautiful book yet. My Slant. I think we are astonishingly lucky to add John Yaw to the list of our great American poets at this moment, when we most need his work to help us recognize that gradual and constant dazzle, which is the transformational capability of attention. This is from Laura Mullen. I also picked up Old Kiln by Gia Pingwa, translated from the Chinese by James Trapp, Olivia Milburn, and Christopher Payne. I picked this up from Blackwell's. The UK bookseller that has, I think, taken up quite a bit of the slack that Book Depository left when its corporate overlord closed it. 1 year can bury centuries of history. 1966. China is on the cusp of a decade of upheaval, and the furnaces of Old Kiln have never been this cold. The village's once famed ceramics production has almost ground to a halt. Only ancient grudges smolder beneath its poverty-stricken streets, never forgotten by the 2 families that preside over the village. Between them stands the adopted ink cap, whose mysterious origins leave him unloved and barely tolerated. When the faraway cap at home demands a purer party line, the directive trickles down to this hinterland and revolutionary factions form. Clashing visions for a new future unravel the tight-knit community along old clan lines. Inkcap's gift for communicating with the natural world gives him solace and a unique perspective in witnessing the violence punctuating daily existence. As fervor mutates into ways of settling scores, being an outcast might just save him, but for the shattered families, can the pieces be put back together again? So, Old Kiln, which I first heard about at the end of last year, when Roz and her co-host of the Reading Around the World BookTube event mentioned this book, or named this book as the June or July selection. I don't quite remember which. But I've been on something of a kick for works in translation, so I'm quite happy to have this in my collection. So the final 6 books in this book haul come from Powell's, the great bookstore in Portland, Oregon. I took advantage of a 20% off sale for this book haul and for this particular part of this haul, and tried out Powell's new website. They recently renovated their website, and I'm not entirely sure what I make of it. But anyway, so let's get going, starting with some poetry. Chronicle of Drifting by Yuki Tanaka. Yuki Tanaka's debut full-length collection, Chronicle of Drifting, explores rootlessness, its beauty, and perils. Tanaka's restless imagination roams among places in Persone, a village mermaid, a geisha in the Midwest, a flaneur in Tokyo, searching for a permanent self and a sense of community. In the feverish world of these poems, inspired by the Japanese tradition of tanka and haiku, as well as by timeless surrealism, one meets a light-lashed horse, an imaginary chauffeur, an out-of-business psychic, a girl who skewers a fish with a flower stalk. In poems ranging from lyric to prose, Tanaka creates a poignant, dreamlike realm where the inner and outer worlds, the self and others, merge, like the train passenger who, looking out the window and seeing the sky through his reflection, feels empty, a blue outline. Bonfire Opera by Danusha Lameris. This is from Ellen Bass. Bonfire Opera, Danusha Lameris' ravishing second collection of poems, lives up to its title and then some. In melodic and sumptuous lines, she considers desire, sorrow, beauty, and death. This is a collection you will want to keep close. A reminder to begin again by listening carefully with the body's rapt attention. So those two were slim volumes of poetry, individual collections. The next two poetry collections are selected collections, starting with Devotions by Mary Oliver. From the Pulitzer Prize-winning poet Mary Oliver, a definitive and enduring collection of her best work. Throughout her celebrated career, Mary Oliver touches countless readers with her brilliantly crafted verse, expounding on her love for the physical world and the powerful bonds between all living things. Arranged by Oliver herself shortly before her death in 2019, Devotions features Oliver's work from her very first book of poetry, No Voyage and Other Poems, published in 1963, at the age of 28, through her last, Felicity, published in 2015. This timeless volume showcases the beloved poet at her edifying best. Within these pages, she provides us with an extraordinary and invaluable collection of her passionate, perceptive, and much treasured observations of the natural world. So I've seen our Mary Oliver very highly recommended by a number of booktubers, and I'm finally happy to have this collection in my collection. Also highly recommended is Homeland of My Body, New and Selected Poems by Richard Blanco, who was recently read for a Poetry Thursday by Book Chat with Pat. A rich, accomplished, intensely intimate collection of over 100 new and previously published poems, Homeland of My Body reveals Richard Blanco's evolution as a writer, grappling with his identity from a matured perspective. At this pivotal mid-career moment, Blanco re-examines his lifelong quest to find his proverbial home and all that it encompasses: love, family, identity, and ultimately art itself. Homeland of My Body is a gift to Blanco's many readers and to those who have yet to discover that they can understand and fall in love with poetry. And now on to the novels from this haul. First up, Open Heaven by Sean Hewitt, who is more noted for his poetry, of which I have one of his collections. Set in a remote village in the north of England, Open Heaven unfolds over the course of 1 year in which two teenage boys meet and transform each other's life. James, a sheltered, shy 16-year-old, is alone in his newly discovered sexuality, full of an unruly desire but entirely inexperienced. As he's beginning to understand himself and his longings, he also realizes how his feelings threaten to separate him from his family and the rural community in which he has grown up. He dreams of another life, fantasizing about what lies beyond the village's leaf-ribboned boundaries, beyond his reach, autonomy, tenderness, sex. Then in the autumn of 2002, he meets Luke, a slightly older boy, handsome, unkempt, who comes with a reputation for danger. Abandoned by his parents, his father imprisoned, and his mother having moved to France for another man, Luke has been sent to live with his aunt and uncle at their farm just outside the village. James is immediately drawn to him, like the pull of fire makes on the air, dragging things into it and blazing them into its hot, white center. Drawn to this boy who is beautiful and impulsive, charismatic and troubled, underneath Luke's bravado is a deep wound, a longing for the love of his father and for the stability of family life. Open Heaven is a novel about desire, yearning, and the terror of first love. With the striking economy and lyricism that animate his work as a poet, Hewitt has written a mesmerizing hymn to boyhood, sensuality, and love in all its forms, a truly exceptional debut. And finally, Theory and Practice by Michelle de Krester. I picked up her earlier novel, The Life to Come, a few weeks ago, and decided to go ahead and pick up Theory and Practice as well. A writer looks back on her young adulthood and grapples with what happens when life smashes through the boundaries of art in a new novel from prize-winning Australian author Michelle de Krester. It's 1986, and beautiful radical ideas are in the air. The narrator of Theory and Practice, a young woman originally from Sri Lanka, arrives in Milburn for graduate school to research the novels of Virginia Woolf. In the bohemian neighborhood of St. Kilda, she meets artists, activists, students, and Kit. He claims to be in a deconstructed relationship. They become lovers, and the narrator's feminism comes up against her jealousy. Meanwhile, an entry in Woolf's diary appends what the narrator knows about her literary idol, and throws her own work into disarray. What happens when our desires run contrary to our beliefs? What should we do when the failings of revered figures come to light? Who is shamed when the truth is told? Sharp-witted and mesmerizing Publishers Weekly's starred review, Michelle de Krester's new novel offers a meditation on the moral complexities that arise in the gap between our values and our lives. And Theory and Practice won this year's Stella Prize as well. So, to do a Steve Pyramid, let's start with Old Kiln by Pingwa. Devotions by Mary Oliver. Homeland of My Body by Richard Blanco. Open Heaven by Sean Hewitt. Theory and Practice by Michelle de Krester. Chronicle of Drifting by Yuki Tanaka. Tell It Slant by John Yaw, who has a selected collection coming out later this year from, I'm assuming, Omnidon, though distributed by the University of Chicago Press, and Bonfire Opera by Danusha Lameris. Anyway, quite happy to have these books in my collection and to put them on my classics, canonical, modern, and contemporary fiction, poetry, and drama shelves. There will probably be at least one more book haul this week, probably two. I should be getting a manga haul tomorrow, and then I should hopefully be getting another manga haul later this week when I get my May new releases from Book People. So until then, BookTube, thank you. Have a great afternoon and stay safe.